Hi, you're with Julian on the Brown Note and Jeremy Corbyn. What next? It's interesting times for the average Jeremy Corbyn enjoyer, the ex-Labour leader who was ousted from his... Well, he wasn't ousted, he quit, but he led Labour to their most triumphant performance at an election this century against Theresa May. And the entire UK establishment and media destroyed his entire, even his own party, tore him down because he represented socialism and an end to economic neoliberalism. So they painted him as a racist because they couldn't use the economic arguments anymore. That red under the bed scare thing after so many years of Tory austerity didn't work anymore. So they needed something toxic. So they made up this bullshit about him being a racist. The offence of that was so bad that this is someone that had been on the barricades for decades. There are so many photos of him at anti-racism rallies going back 30 years. He's always been there fighting racism, and with a lot of racists in politics, particularly in the Tory party in the UK, that don't ever get accused of racism. I mean, I don't even want to give the anti-Semitism thing any credit anymore, because it was used as a battering ram against him. And you can understand the Murdoch press turning on him, but the thing that I'll never forgive is the BBC and the Guardian turning on him. To this day, I won't give any money or register with the Guardian newspaper. They turned in Julian Assange, and they spent 3 years tearing down Jeremy Corbyn. This is unforgivable. When it comes down to it, someone like The Guardian, who should be on your side, is part of the same coin as the Sun newspaper from the Murdoch press. So this is all blown up again because he lost the second election where half his party turned on him. Like a third of there are conflicting forces in UK Labour. There are Labour, which Jeremy Corbyn is, and there are the Blairites, which are vaguely right-wing, Thatcher-worshipping, neoliberal, foreign policy hawks that side with Israel no matter what, led by the now Labour leader Keir Starmer. So this all blew up recently with Gary Lineker's tweet about refugees being removed from air for having a political opinion, and it refocused a lot of attention on the fact that the BBC, who can't allow Gary Lineker to have a political opinion, had mercilessly attacked Jeremy Corbyn and many of the people who are presenters on the BBC, including Gary Lineker, had attacked Jeremy Corbyn without any punishment. And everyone said, that's a bit hypocritical, but it also reflected back the light that he is, the good man that he is. No one's going to say Keir Starmer's a good man. No one's going to say Tony Blair's a good man. They're going to say they get elected. That's it. I'd rather he was a good man. Thank you. So this all blew up, and it was amazing. As someone that has been posting in defence of Jeremy Corbyn for a few years, it was so empowering to see how many people had just blown off all of this relentless media criticism of him from the establishment. If you ever want to know how establishment dominated the UK's media is, you only have to look at the entirety of the way that Jeremy Corbyn was treated. So he resigned anyway, and Keir Starmer came in. No one in the position of leader of the Labour Party should ever be a knight of the realm. Not at that age. I mean, how establishment entwined are you that you're called Sir Keith? We can't even have somebody that isn't a peer leading Labour. Are you kidding me? So very quickly after the Lineker episode and this upswell of support for Jeremy Corbyn, Keir Starmer, the leader of Labour, excommunicated Jeremy Corbyn from standing as a Labour MP at the next election. And that has opened a very big can of worms. He has dropped the anti-Semitism charge because it was bullshit. and instead said that he's Jeremy Corbyn's electoral baggage. I saw some statistic that Jeremy Corbyn had the highest proportion of the UK vote, of the English vote for Labour, going back to several decades. And his performance against Theresa May was absolutely superb, whereas Blairites have done terribly since Tony Blair's third election. So the notion that he is electoral baggage is disingenuous, but actually a lie. It's to get him out. It's to get this thing under Keir Starmer's skin out. So what's going to happen next? Well, all of the focus is on whether Jeremy Corbyn will stand as an independent, and it's being made out. They're doorstepping this guy like crazy. They're hanging around his house. They're following him down the street, trying to get gotcha moments on him. Like I've never seen a politician in the UK treated like Jeremy Corbyn. And now they're following him about. He's done nothing. He left his job as Labour leader and just retreated into being a Labour MP. He's done nothing. He has not gone after Keir Starmer. He has not spent every day in the press haranguing Keir Starmer. They've come after him. I mean, if you want this messianic complex thing that outsiders accuse us of when it comes to Jeremy Corbyn, it's being played up by the outsiders. That he is so important still that you need to go to these lengths to take him down, that you're following him in the street years after he actually quit as leader. So the first thing that's going to happen is this. A lot of people in the press and the establishment, particularly in places like The Guardian, are gonna... I posted a piece saying I think that for the first time in my life I want Labour to lose the next election. I have been taken for granted my whole life as a Labour vote because the Tories are so evil that, and in Australia as well, the Liberal Party is so evil that I'll always vote Labour. I'll always vote Labour. But I'm not voting for the word Labour. I'm voting for the policies of Labour, and the current Labour Party doesn't have any. And I said I want them to lose because I think that it's better for the UK and the Labour Party in the long run to expunge this Blairism, this right-wing neoliberal Thatcher-quoting version of Labour that is... I vote for policies, I don't vote for the word Labour. The UK Labour Party doesn't represent Labour policies. You can't take your vote for granted this badly. It seems that the worse the Tories get, UK Labour uses that as an excuse to become even worse as well, because they can get away with it. But I think that it will be it will be so damaging if Keir Starmer won an election, because for the next 20 years they'll tell us that only Blairites, only these right-wing neoliberal Labour governments can ever get elected. Not true at all, because Tony Blair won elections that Jeremy Corbyn would have won in a landslide. And then he lost 60 to 70 seats and millions of votes. And for 20 years, these Tony Blair worshipping neoliberal Thatcher worshippers have gone backwards in the polls. They've never won an election. And Keir Starmer's rating now is dismal. But if he won the next election, all these journalists in places like The Guardian will tell you that it was because he was this centrist and the lefties can't win. And that's a lie. It's because the Tories are so crap, the public hate them. Same thing happened in Australia with Anthony Albanese. He tried playing this small target, stand as close to the Tories, the Australian Tories, as possible, and he was backwards in the polls. He was over a cliff. No one was going to vote for him until the Liberal Party, who are the Australian version of the Tories, behaved so badly for 18 months that the public hated their guts. We had this Boris Johnson idiot in charge in Scott Morrison, and the public hated them so much you could have been Trotsky and gotten over the line. Just like Tony Blair could have been Trotsky and gotten over the line back in 97. They will tell you that it's because they were centrist and pro-business and all of this crap. None of that's true. That's why I want Keir Starmer to lose the next election. That's why I don't want him usurped. I want him specifically to lose. The first thing that's going to happen is that these people in the press, particularly at places like The Guardian and in the establishment, retired politicians, are all going to start saying that you, the Labour voter, that is abandoning the Labour Party and supporting Jeremy Corbyn is a traitor. That you should be supporting Labour no matter what. That they'll always be better than the Tories. Of course they will. That's not the point. The point is not giving us this right-wing Labour government and celebrating it as Labour when we want a real Labour government and when it's better that they lose. But if you've got all these people telling you that you need to support Labour no matter what, I don't swear on this channel very often, but to those people in The Guardian that are going to come forward and say you shouldn't be taking down Labour because it's going to give us a Tory government, and those ex-politicians that are going to come out and say you need to support Labour otherwise you're going to get this Tory government, I would say this: go fuck yourselves. You did that 3 years ago to Jeremy Corbyn. How dare you, how fucking dare you say that after you took down the Labour government knowing that we would get Boris Johnson and Brexit and the Tory government. You did that to Jeremy Corbyn. You did that to Labour. Don't you dare turn round and say that to us. Say that we're the traitors when you already walked that path. And they will. Blairism is the cancer. I have posted a few things, but there's a thing I posted a couple of years ago about how the cult that is killing Labour is Blairism, not Corbynistas. The Blairites have, since Tony Blair's third election where he went backwards 60 plus seats and lost millions of votes, they've never gone forward in an election. We say Tony Blair wins elections. No Blairite has gone forward in over 20 years. When is this happening? How many Blairites have lost elections? From Gordon Brown, Ed Miliband, all these people have lost elections. And it's never because they're Blairites. But Corbyn loses an election, it's because of his socialist views. Bullshit. He's the only person that's gone forward this century for Labour. And that's why he was taken down. And we're seeing like the Alexis Sale film about Jeremy Corbyn coming out now, and the reports into how Labour and the media conspired to destroy Jeremy Corbyn. There was no way he was winning that Brexit election when even his own party were trying to take him down, when even The Guardian newspaper was trying to take him down. How the hell was he going to win that? So don't you come back after you did all of that to Jeremy Corbyn and say that as soon as Jeremy Corbyn stands as an independent, they will attack him mercilessly for trying to take down the Labour government. The Labour government kicked him out of the Labour Party. He wanted to stand as a Labour minister, an MP for Labour in Islington, where he has done for decades, where the locals love him. They're basically saying he has no right to stand in politics at all. What kind of fascism is that? I said that he should form a new party because the cancer in Labour is too deep. When the cancer is supported by all of the establishment media and the establishment ex-politicians, it's too deep. They get across the line once every 20 years in an election, and everyone says it's because they were centrists this time. No, it's never because of that. It never has been because of that. It's a lie. It's to ensure that they don't represent Labour values when they're in power. If Keir Starmer was smarter and a better tactician than he is, he would not have expelled Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour Party, putting him up as an independent that will wipe the living floor with the candidate for Islington that the Labour Party puts up. That is a poison chalice for anyone in Labour. And no doubt the establishment and the press will scream that Jeremy Corbyn is coming after Labour. They kicked him out. He didn't come after them, they came after him. He's like John Wick at this stage. So he's going to be an independent. He has to be. I would be so disappointed if he doesn't stand. But he's such an honourable man that he might even turn around and not. But I believe he will. What I'd love to see is somebody who is really connected with Jeremy Corbyn stand in Keir Starmer's seat and beat Keir Starmer as the ultimate repudiation. I want Starmer in that position at the next general election and to lose. I want Blairism gone from Labour. I want this cancer that is destroying any hope we get of meaningful change in the United Kingdom, and we're seeing it a bit in Australia as well, where I'm living at the moment, which is that when Labour get in, they have to change to be like the Tories. Why? The Tories never changed to be like Labour. This isn't about rubbing anyone's nose in anything. This is about what's good for the country. I support Labour for Labour values, on the economy, on the treatment of individuals, on our foreign policy. I don't want a Labour Party that does what the Tories do. And I don't want one to be victorious at an election which moves this two-party goal right next, just like this narrow. That's your two-party goal. You've got one side and you've got a slightly next to the other side. You've got no gap at all. And none of these Labour values matter anymore. Because Keir Starmer is awful. Thatcher quoting Keir Starmer. So I think this is what you're going to have, is this inevitable avalanche of negative press aimed at Jeremy Corbyn as soon as he announces that he's going to stand as independent. And Keir Starmer would have been smarter to have kept him in the fold, and I really hope that he doesn't offer him that olive branch. Because if he keeps him in Labour, it answers... He might be this incredibly popular figure in the background, but it will answer a lot more questions. This one poses a lot more questions. When he stands as an independent, you actually get to see how popular he really is. And I really hope that the momentum builds. Through him, the Greens just wipe the floor with Labour in Cornwall overnight. Keir Starmer's popularity rating is cratering against the most on-the-nose Tory government since John Major's in the early 90s. So unfortunately, the suffering for Jeremy Corbyn isn't over, because to ask him not to be involved in politics would be the most heartbreaking thing you could do to the man. They're not allowing him to stand in Labour where he's been for decades. So for him to stand as an independent is a birthright for him to be involved in politics. And they will come for him, and they will tell all of us that support him that we're traitors and that we're enabling the Tories after they just did the same thing.